Good morning and welcome to the Cost-Effective Road Asset Management with iROADS for Local Authorities webinar delivered by TRL. At the top of your screen, you'll see the Q&A function. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in here and we'll have a Q&A session after the presentation. Thank you, and I'll now hand over to your presenters, John, Wendy and Subu.
Can we start, John, or?
Yep, over to you, Subu.
Right. So thank you everyone for joining the webinar. I'm Subu. I lead the product management at TRL Software. John.
Hi everyone, I'm John Proust. I'm the product owner for iROADS. iROADS is TRL's asset management system.
And I'm Wendy Davidson. I'm a traffic engineer working with TRL on various different systems.
John, let's go to the next slide. So before we introduce iROADS, let me take a moment to introduce TRL, the organization behind it. Many of you might be already aware of TRL, but for those who are not, TRL, or Transport Research Laboratory, has been part of the transport and innovation in the UK for last 80 years. What makes us different is that our research that we do, the fundamental foundation research, gets transformed into practical tools like iROADS, which is what you will see later. And we are not just software developers. We are behind standards and guidelines used by the industry, local authorities, and internationally, and behind standards like PAS 2161, etc., for condition monitoring and assessment. As with most organizations, the strength of TRL lies in our people, and the combination of people. We are scientists, engineers, software developers, data architects, and practitioners who use the software to do the job. So we are not a software for product company as it is. We use our own software to do the work for our customers and in our daily use. And products and to give you the scale, so solutions are like iROADS are used by National Highways for managing the entire strategic road network, the payments part of it. So that's about TRL. We have around 200 people and over 1,000 customers across 140 countries internationally. John, next slide, please. So what is iROADS? iROADS, as we call it, it's a total asset management platform, as we say. And when we say total, it is one single platform which covers all the three areas in an integrated way: operational, tactical, and strategic. Strategic means investment planning, whole life cost analysis, multi-year analysis, and all. And on the operational side, you'll have all the work orders, inspections, RMMS aspects of it, all in one single platform. And it's a modern solution, fully cloud native, open to integration with any other modern solutions, and has got field mobile applications for engineers as well as road users and public portal, etc. So a modern asset management system which is open with a very cost-effective and some interesting features and capabilities that you will see next as we go ahead. John, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Subu. Thanks for the intro. So we'll get into the webinar proper now. So obviously our theme today is cost effectiveness, in particular cost effectiveness for an AMS, asset management system. And cost effectiveness obviously has two parts to it. So of course there's the cost part and there is the effectiveness part. And the effectiveness we can think of as the benefits or the outcomes that we want to get for the cost. So let's just quickly have a look at the types of costs that we're talking about with an AMS. Some of these obviously are quite straightforward, things like just direct costs, subscription fees, setup costs, support. Then you can have, this sort of gray area where you've got maybe training that's required, possibly consultancy. A lot of the time consultancy is required with an AMS to get best value out of it. What we're going to try and show you today is that we've tried to design against that. So we try to design a system which minimizes the need for those types of consultancy costs. You have things like data collection costs. Of course, to make an asset management system work, there's no way around it. You need data. There are costs to collecting that data, but there are also ways of minimizing the costs, but also maximizing the benefits of the data. So therefore, you get more value from the cost that you have to spend in order to get the data. And we've got things like task time as well, which is obviously very important. What you don't want with an asset management system is for the use of that system to become the job itself. The system is just a tool. It's just there to help people do their jobs. If the system is overly complex, hard to learn, if it's not well designed or well optimized, you've got to end up spending a lot of time just using the system instead of actually doing a job. So task time is a very important one. So that's on the cost side. On the, the benefits, outcomes type of side, this is a bit more vague at this point. What we'll do is we'll show you some specific examples as we go, demoed in iROADS, so you'll be able to understand what we mean by, for example, better outcomes, process efficiencies. But these are the kinds of benefits that you would want to get from your asset management system. You're investing in the system, you're investing in the data, you're investing in the staff using the system. Obviously, we need to be able to get the benefits and the outcomes for that. Okay, so what we're going to do for the rest of this session is we're going to do a sort of a buyer's guide for asset management systems. So maybe some of you on the call are in the process of buying an asset management system or thinking about it. Maybe it's coming up in the near future. Maybe it's not, and it's just a topic of interest. But what we're going to try and do is a bit of a buyer's guide, the kinds of things you should consider when looking to procure an asset management system. And given the theme of our webinar, we're going to really focus in on the cost effectiveness side of things. So we're going to give you 4 key factors to look for when buying an asset management system to ensure cost effectiveness. These are automation, data integration, ease of use, and simple and transparent pricing. So we're going to go through each of those areas. Wendy's going to introduce each of those topics, and then I'm going to give you a bit of a demo to show you how we tackle each of those in iROADS. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Wendy for the first set of, or the first factor.
Okay, so our first factor is automation. One of the key benefits of software is the ability to automate tasks, but in many cases, we're still not taking full advantage of automation. Just to be clear, it's not about replacing jobs, it's about automating the right kinds of tasks, particularly the repetitive tasks and the ones that are very time consuming on a daily basis. So tasks like regular reporting, routine communications, data analysis, and updating records. These kind of jobs often take up valuable time, and in some cases, local authorities, like John mentioned earlier, are paying consultants to do them. Automation can help reduce the reliance and that spend. iROADS automates many of these areas to support local authorities' asset management more effectively. This automation brings a number of other benefits. So it cuts down the time that is needed to complete the routine day-to-day tasks, as we've mentioned. It improves efficiency and consistency across services. It helps reduce costs both directly and indirectly. It gives us more reliable information by removing that human error element, and it ensures that we keep the data up to date. And ultimately, it frees up staff to focus on higher value work. All things that you should be looking for when you're looking at automation.
Thanks, Wendy. Okay, that's a great introduction. So what we're going to do now is move over to a few demos. We're going to demo a few different functionalities in iROADS. The way we're going to do this is with a video, simply because it saves us having to switch screens and and all the associated faff that comes along with that. Okay, so we're going to go to our first video here. So this is about automated flood risk zone mapping. Now this is just an example. I'll talk you through it. But while you're watching this, I just want you to bear in mind this is just one use case. There are many use cases which would be similar to this. But we're just going to show you how you can automate flood risk zone mapping in iROADS and make it a completely automated process. All right. So I am assuming you can all see this video playing now. So this is iROADS, and what we're looking at here is you've got your road network in blue, and we have got some flood risk data overlaid on the map, which is in purple. So this flood risk data is actually free information. There are various ways of getting this into the system. You can just import it very easily. You can even connect to a web service if you were lucky enough to be in a local authority that has that sort of data. Now, you will find that many authorities do have this data. I'm just going to pause the video here just to sort of make this point a little bit. What we're trying to do here is make sure that the data that's being used elsewhere in the authority can be brought in for road asset management, and more value therefore can be got from it. So if you're paying for the data once, you want to get as much value as you can from it. So here what we're doing is we're bringing the flood data into iROADS, so into the road asset management system. What we're doing now on the screen is mapping across a field on the network data in iROADS to a field in the flood risks data set. What that's going to allow iROADS to do then is to apply the flood risk to the network data. So the key thing here is that we're not just showing the data on the map. That's just not enough anymore these days. It's too manual. So we want to actually automate that. What you can see here is happening, well, it's not real time because it's a video, but this is how long the process takes. You can see the progress slider here. What the system is doing is taking the flood risk from the flood layer data, and it's updating our network data with that same data. What that means then is in a matter of seconds, your network data is now updated with flood risk data. And you can see on the screen how this is working. So again, the key thing is that the data itself is updated. If you don't update the data, if you only just overlay the information on the map, you're very limited with what you can do with that. Now the system knows there's a flood risk between such and such a chainage and the end chainage. What we can then do is use our reporting tools like this one here. This is our data explorer. And you can then query this data. You can run reports on it. You can run analyses on it. You can use the flood risk, for example, in your maintenance planning. So if you need to prioritize certain sections based on their flood risk, you can do that, all because we've updated the data itself. So what you've seen is a semi-automated process up till now. So there is some initial configuration work to set this up. The key point is once this is done, once it's set up, the system will automate this going forward. What that means is if you change your network, so if you add new sections or if you change the shape of existing sections, the system will update the flood risk data automatically. So you won't have to do anything. That is just happening in the background. If you have a live flood risk data service, which is just a mapping service that you can link into in iROADS, and if the flood risk zones change, automatically the flood risk data will also be updated in the system. Okay, so the key thing is it's happening all the time automatically. It's a one-time setup, and from that point on, you will always have your flood risk updated on your network. Again, as I was saying, this is just an example. This will work with any kind of spatial data. Another use case we've seen applied with this is just updating simple things like, for example, districts, wards, local areas. If you need that updated on your network, you've essentially got two ways to do it. You can get someone to actually do that manually, which will take a very long time and obviously needs to be updated and maintained. Or you can use a feature in a system like this, which with a one-time setup will then ensure that that is done going forwards. And it's always available in the data. It's always available for reporting, always available for analysis. Okay, that's our first example. I'm going to move swiftly on to the next one here. And this is automation of survey data analysis. So as we all know, we have survey data coming into our asset management systems. It needs to be processed in order to be useful a lot of the time. The raw data is not always the most useful data. Obviously, it does depend on the use case itself. So what we've done in iROADS is we've again automated that whole process. So what we're looking at here is the scanner RCI analysis, which many of you will be familiar with. You can run this analysis directly in iROADS. Already, that's a nice benefit. In a lot of systems, you can't run the analysis in the system itself. It has to be done outside and then pulled in. Sometimes that requires consultancy fees. Sometimes it requires a different system to be paid for. This is all happening in the same system. What you can see here is the configuration of that analysis. Now, as we know, this analysis is set based on requirements from the DFT. So we don't want to be configuring the kind of master version of this. That can always stay locked down in the system. However, iROADS does give you that flexibility to configure this, to configure a different version of this. If you need to use this for a purpose other than your DFT reporting, you can do that in the system. But again, the key thing I'm trying to get across here is the fact that this is now an automated process. So once this is set up one time, and by the way, that can be set up during the implementation of the system, you can then run the same analysis on a regular basis, weekly, monthly, daily. Now, for this kind of analysis, obviously, you've got survey data coming in, not really on a daily basis. Usually, it's maybe weekly, maybe monthly over the survey period. What's nice about automating this analysis, apart from obviously the fact you don't have to do it manually, is that you'll always have an up-to-date view of your condition data. So if this is running let's say every week, and you're having surveys coming in every week as well, or maybe every 2 weeks, you're gonna straight away get the benefit or get the insight from that data. As soon as it gets into the system's going to run this analysis automatically, and it's going to update all of your outputs. So you'll be able to understand where you are in terms of your condition. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is it trending towards something we'd expect? So that essentially there are no surprises by the end of the year when you have to come and submit that report to the DFT. One thing I obviously have to mention here is that we all know the DFT reporting requirements are going to be changing. So again, this is just an example. This works just as well with the PAS 2161 data. Obviously, we don't fully know the reporting requirements of that yet, but the analysis works exactly the same, and the concept is the same. So once your data comes in from your PAS 2161 survey provider, the automated analysis will run. It will update all of your outputs. It will update all of your map layers, and it will update all of your reporting. Okay, so that's always kept up to date for you, and there is no manual work involved in that whatsoever. No need to pay consultancy fees for this analysis to be run. No need for another system to run the analysis. This is all happening in the main asset management system. Okay, and then just very briefly as well. Okay, sorry. Here you can see how the analysis is being set up on an automated basis. So you can pick monthly, weekly. You can set the schedule according to the need, essentially. Okay, and finally, we're going to look at the automation of the reports which come out from that process. All right, so obviously we looked at the scanner report here. We're going to look at the DFT reporting, which comes out from that condition data. So this report here, again, is produced automatically according to the schedule that you've set. So again, every week you could produce this report, you could get this sent by email automatically to a certain user group. We'll be able to just keep track of that value as it changes over the survey season. And so by the time you get to the point where you need to actually report this information, you know where you're going to be. Okay, so that's automation. Now we're going to move on to our next topic. So I'm going to hand over to Wendy again for data integration.
Thanks, John. So we're well aware when it comes to road asset management, local authorities are dealing with more data types and sources than ever before, and that this is only set to continue to increase. Without proper data integration capabilities, local authorities are going to struggle to get value from their data and their systems. There is also risk with this of unseen costs of ad hoc integrations or wasteful manual data processes. So what would you look for in a system like iROADS when it comes to data integration capabilities? The key features to look for include things like system integration, the ability to easily connect with other adjacent platforms, such as your finance, invoicing, or public-facing portals. Curated data sets, so easy access to carefully curated, high-quality third-party data sets without needing to go through separate procurement for these. And easy access to be able to import the data, so allowing users to quickly and easy get data into the system rather than having to go through the software vendor or having to understand long, complex data import processes. These features reduce the time and cost involved in collecting the configuration data, but they also unlock more strategic value. So by combining data sets or accessing previously inaccessible data, authorities can uncover new insights and better support specific tasks with this information. Better aggregation of data sets results in more reliable information, which in turn supports more informed decision-making for local authorities. So John's now going to take you through examples of data integration capabilities within iROADS.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, so let's move to our first demonstration here. So before we get into demonstrating any actual functionality, what I want to talk to you about are a couple of features we have in iROADS. So what you're looking at here on the screen is what we call the asset data marketplace. Some of the names that you're seeing on the screen, I'm sure will be familiar to many on the call. So these are data providers in the road asset management space. And we'll show you some examples of how we integrate their data in just a minute. The key thing here is that we have relationships, partnerships with all of these data providers, and we make it easy to get their data into iROADS, so into your asset management system, alongside all of your network data, your condition data, all of the, let's say, traditional data that you'd have in an asset management system. What we're trying to do here is make it as easy as possible for you to also get, let's call it, new data sets into your asset management system. Blending those data sets together, so blending the old and the new. Maybe it's a bit unfair to call them old and new, but I think we all know what we mean by that. Blending those together is where you really start to get the value. So we're going to see some road metrics data just after this. So let's say you're paying for a road metrics survey. If you're only viewing the outputs of that survey in isolation, in a separate system where all you're seeing is just the outputs of that survey, you're just not getting the full value from the survey data. You're getting a fraction of the real value. The real value is unlocked when you put it all together, you blend it in with your other data. So let's say we want to see road metrics data alongside scanner data, which we'll show in just a minute. That's when you start to unlock real insights. And what that means is you're just getting more value from the spend that you're making on the surveys that you're paying for anyway. Other things to think about are, so you can see in the top left there, we've got Fathom, which is flooding data. Now, I mentioned earlier, I'm sure in the relevant departments of local authorities, flooding data is obviously available. So if you can get it that way, absolutely great. And that's probably the easiest way to do it. However, if you cannot get hold of that, this is just an easy way to do that. So we partnered with Fathom. We've made sure for all of the data providers here, in fact, we've vetted their data. We've made sure it's relevant to the asset management space. We've made sure the format works. We've made sure it's high quality. We've made sure there's a real use case for it. So you can very easily, with the data marketplace, test out that data, trial it, and then if you're happy with it, then we can move to the next stage. basic principle is we've tried to do as much of the upfront work as possible, talking to these providers, making sure the data is correct and relevant, so that by the time customers are using this system, they're just a couple of button clicks away from data which will actually really help them do the jobs that they need to do. So that's data integration. Wendy also spoke about system integration. So let's just briefly have a look at what we call our integrations hub in iROADS. And what this is a set of pre-configured integrations with a lot of relevant other systems which are used across all our customers, across local authorities, things like Power BI for your reporting. Microsoft Teams is a nice one. What we can do with that is ping people so they can actually get notifications when certain events happen, if survey data is loaded, for example, or if condition data falls below a certain threshold, you can get an automatic notification. Oracle's in there for finance. We have SAP if that's being used. DFT Street Manager you can see there as well. So the idea is we've pre-configured as many of these integrations as we can. So once again, the idea is that you get up and running as quickly as possible, minimizing your configuration costs because we don't have to reintegrate any of these systems. We've already done the work. We just have to connect it up. Obviously, we can add to this list. This is not a complete list, but it's just to give you an idea. So making systems integration as quick and easy as possible in this way. So I mentioned Road Metrics earlier. So they're one of our data partners. Obviously, other data partners are available, but we're just going to show you their data for this this demonstration. So for those of you who don't know, Road Metrics are a company that provides video surveying capabilities, and they also have an AI algorithm which can pull defects and inventory data from the images. So essentially, you're automating a lot of that, the defect identification, asset inventory collection. That's the purpose of those type of surveys. Again, there are many other providers which do the same thing, and it would all work in a very similar way. What we're seeing here is a road metric survey integrated directly into iROADS. So you can see the actual video survey is playing along here alongside the map. So everything is just automatically location referenced. You can see some defects are picked up, so you'll always be able to see those on the image. Road Metrics actually provides the raw image as well, so you can see it without the annotated defects. But what's happening here is that instead of just keeping this data in an isolated system, which fine, there is some value to it, of course. You're picking up defects, you're able to view that on the imagery and view the video survey, but bringing it into your asset management system is really what makes the most sense. So we've integrated Road Metrics. It's just a couple of clicks to get the data into the system if you're using them. Many other providers like ISIN, RoadTrace, Naira Dynamics, Geist, some others that you saw on the previous slide, exactly the same concept. So let's take a look now at how you might blend that AI survey data with scanner data. So we talked about the fact that it's really the bringing together of these data sets which boosts the cost effectiveness. You're paying for the survey anyway. The best thing you can do is bring all of the data together so you can get the insights you need, you can get the reporting you need. So we're looking here at Road Metrics provide a condition indicator. Now, obviously, when we fully switch to the PAS 2161, all survey providers will be providing the PAS 2161 condition indicators. Here at the moment, this is just Road Metrics version of that. You can also see the individual points that were picked up in the survey. You can pull up the defects. You can view the images directly in iROADS. So you've always got that information available. But then what you want to do is start layering in other information. So what we're going to show you in just a minute here is bringing in some scanner data, which I'm sure most of us on the call are familiar with. But for those who are not, this is essentially just machine survey data. Very fine-grained is really good quality data. There's a whole debate to be had about whether we can replace scanner data with these AI condition surveys. I mean, my personal view is not yet, certainly not yet, maybe in the future. So I think for a good few years yet, we're going to need a blend of these kinds of data sources. So we want to be able to see your AI survey data, your video survey data, alongside the, let's call it the more traditional pavement survey data. So that's what you're seeing here. What this enables you to do is, for example, double check what you're getting from the AI survey. So if the AI survey has picked up an area of particularly poor condition, what you might want to do is double check that against your scanner data or some equivalent data. It does not have to be scanner. Reinforcing your decision making. The nice thing about data like scanner is it's also helping you understand, to a certain extent, what's going on below the surface as well. Now, obviously, we can bring in things like GPR, deflector graph, traffic speed, deflectometer. All of that sort of data can come in here. The point is, you get a fuller picture of your condition by blending these data sets together rather than just keeping them in isolation. That's when you really get the full value. Last example here then on data integration. So again, on the same theme of creating more value by combining data sets together. This time we're going to look at some slightly different data. So this is data from Michelin. So Michelin provide an awful lot of data from, some people call it connected vehicle data, some people call it crowdsourced vehicle data. They are picking up, and again, there are other data providers available, but Michelin is working with us in this case, and we know they have good quality data. Here they're picking up harsh braking data. So if I just rewind slightly and pause that, what you should be able to see on the screen here are vehicle traces where the sensors in the vehicles have determined there was very harsh deceleration. Okay. This is obviously interesting to us in the asset management world because we would like to understand if there are clusters of locations on the network where this is happening a lot. If it is, one thing that we really do want to understand is there sufficient skid resistance available at that location? Obviously, with harsh braking, what we need is good skid resistance in order to provide a safe stopping distance and stopping time. So if we start to see clusters of lots of harsh braking events in a certain location, what we might want to do again is layer in the, I'm going to keep using the word traditional, so the traditional data, which is the SCRIM data in this case. So this is skidding resistance data that you're seeing on the map. This is picked up anyway by local authorities. By combining it with this Michelin data, we can start to build up an even better picture of what might be going on. So again, we can reinforce our insights. We can make decisions based on that. So we can be more confident in the decisions we're making because we have brought in this extra data set. Finally, what we've brought in here as well are collision points. So this is Stats 19 data. So you can hopefully see, you can start to blend all this data together. You've got harsh braking data, you've got your skid resistance data, you've got your collision data. All of these together, plus some automated analysis from iROADS, help us to identify certain locations on the network where we think there may be a skidding risk here. In which case, we can prioritize investigations, we can prioritize maintenance. Again, the idea always being that we're using our budget wisely. So we're trying to be cost effective. So instead of going out to investigate sites based purely on the SCRIM data, we can now have an even better picture of where the highest risk sites might be and really target those. We can also be more sure that if we're spending money on maintenance schemes to improve the skidding resistance of that location, that we're more confident that the outcomes are going to give us a better return on investment, if you want to look at it like that. Okay, which ultimately in this case would mean two things. One is less need to go back out and re-maintain or resurface certain areas, but of course also actually reducing the accident risk. Ultimately, that's the point of this this use case here. So hopefully you can start to see how you can blend these data sets together. Again, this is really just an example. There are many other use cases. So a lot of these data providers will provide things like surface bumpiness of the road, okay, which again can go alongside our more traditional survey types and give us a better picture. I guess the main point is this data is out there, it's being collected, it's available. We need to try and make use of it. We need to try and make use of it in a cost-effective way, which is what we're trying to show here. All right, that's everything on data integration. So I'm going to hand back to Wendy then for our next topic, which is ease of use.
Okay, so ease of use is one of the most overlooked but powerful ways to increase the cost effectiveness when we choose software. Why is that? Because a system that's genuinely easy to use allows people to get value from it quickly without needing to spend lots of time training or to be system experts. This means that a broader set of people across your organisation can use it confidently, and this in turn will add more value. iROADS ease of use is supported by several key features. So Gen AI capabilities offer real benefits. For example, being able to use your natural language and have natural language interactions make it easier for users to find information and perform tasks. User-centric design, so that the system feels intuitive and fits the way people already work. And self-configuration as well as pre-configuration means it can easily adapt. You can easily adapt the software and set it up easily without needing all support from the vendor. These features don't just make life easier, they save time, reduce the need for training, lower dependency on consultants, and help users complete tasks faster and more confidently. And just like we've mentioned before with automation and data integration, ease of use also provides high quality information. And the reason for that is because when we understand how to use the system well, the data tends to be better. So John's going to give you examples of the ease of use facilities that we have within iROADS.
Thanks, Wendy. Okay, just before I do that, I just want to give one stat on iROADS, or a series of stats. Just give me a couple of minutes to explain. So we replaced the old asset management, the pavement asset management system for national highways. That asset management system was used by about 20 people a year. So we had the user data. We knew it was about 20 people a year. Out of those 20, it was actually only about 5 people who were using the system on a regular basis. So what was happening there was essentially there were a few expert users who were able to use the system. They understood it well. And what would happen is if people needed data or insight or analysis or reporting from the system, they would go and ask those 5 users, and the 5 users would just run the system effectively. Their job almost became running the system to produce information for everyone else. Now we've had the iROADS up and running with National Highways for 3 years. We have, on average, about 300 monthly users and about 50 different daily users. So 50 users using the system actively every single day. Huge increase, obviously, from 20 to 300 or 50 per day. The key thing there is that what we've done with iROADS is make it as easy to use as possible. What that means is people can just log in and get the data they need very quickly, very easily. They can perform the workflows they need to perform, run the reports, whatever it is they need to do. We don't need to have that bottleneck of just a few experts on the system. It's just very, very easy to use. So that's just one really nice example, I think, of how ease of use provides more value. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. So we're actually going to switch over to a live demo just for this last part. So I am hoping you should be able to see the screen. Maybe my colleagues will tell me if there's something not working here. So one way we can really boost the ease of use of these types of systems is by bringing in generative AI. So obviously we've all played around with ChatGPT and well, pick your large language model of choice. But of course, we need to actually unlock that value in systems like iROADS, in asset management systems. There are upsides, there are downsides to that. We'll discuss a few of those. But just to start with, I'd like to show you our iROADS Copilot. So this works exactly as does ChatGPT and Claude and all the rest of them, in the sense that it's a chatbot. So you can ask it the questions that you need answers for. The point of this, of course, is it just makes it even easier to use this system. This doesn't require any expertise at all. It just requires that you have a particular question that you need answering, and you're able to formulate that into a clear question. That's essentially all that's needed. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a demo here. So I'm going to ask it, for example, how many bridges do we have? And it's going to think for a bit and it's going to give us the answer. There are 5 bridges. Okay, so then we could ask it, for example, give me the asset IDs of all the bridges. And it's going to list us the asset IDs. So hopefully you can see how quickly and easily, quick and easy it is to get this information out of the system. Before I go any further with this one, I just want to address a few things in terms of AI risk, because of course the upside is fairly obvious, I suppose, but there are risks as well. Lots of discussion going on in our industry and everywhere else about the risks of AI. So one of the key risks we might be interested in with a system like iROADS is data security. Okay, so we don't want, for example, OpenAI, who own ChatGPT, to be able to access all the data in the system just so that we can use a chatbot. That's one example. What we've done with this Copilot, we're of course very conscious of that risk and the fact that the data in iROADS needs to be completely secure for our customers. So when we're using this feature, the data doesn't leave the system at all. It doesn't leave the environment. It doesn't leave the infrastructure. So iROADS is sitting in the cloud. When you run a query like this through the Copilot, all of the processing, all of the querying that happens behind the scenes stays within that environment. So each customer has their own environment. The environments don't mix between customers, and they certainly don't mix with the outside world. So this is in no way connected up to the internet. No data gets sent outside of our kind of walled gardens, and it all remains secure. So it's really critical as these kinds of features do start coming into systems like iROADS, really need to be careful about that data security piece. Right, let me just show you a few more examples here. Okay, so we could ask, for example, what types of bridges do we have? Okay, and it's listing us here the types of bridges in the system. We can ask it things about inspections, for example. Okay, how many bridge inspections are due this month? 2 bridge inspections are due this month. Okay, so we don't need to restrict ourselves to only asking questions about the asset inventory. We can ask things about the inspections, about works orders, that sort of thing. Just at this point, I'll talk about another risk of AI systems or generative AI systems, which is, of course, hallucination. So I'm sure we've all seen in the media plenty of examples of this happening with the big, large language models out there. So again, we can't have that happening in a system like iROADS. We can't have, this information may be being used in a government report, for example, or a freedom of information request, something like that. We can't afford hallucinations and we can't afford mistakes. So again, the way we've set this up is that it's not connected to the internet at all. In no way is it connected to the internet. It can't bring in any other data from outside. All it can look at is the data that's in the system. All it can do with that data is run queries on it. And the queries it runs are fully based on the questions that we ask. So in that way, we completely minimize the risk of hallucination. And so if I ask it a question which I know it doesn't have the answer to, so I'm going to ask it, how many bridges are concrete? Yeah, how many bridges are concrete? I know this information is not in the system. So all that's going to happen is that the Copilot is just going to simply say there isn't enough data to answer that. It doesn't try to find an answer which isn't there. It doesn't hallucinate. It just simply says we just don't have the data to answer that. So that's another way we try to mitigate an AI risk. I think I'm going to speed up slightly just looking at the time, but let me show you a few more examples because the other type of thing this can do is give us charts, chart outputs as well. So let's have a look at work order status. So show me current work order statuses. Okay, so we've got the statuses come out here in a chart form. Anything the Copilot produces, we can download, we can copy. So this can just be lifted straight into a report, for example. Imagine somebody asks you for a freedom of information request. Straight away, you can come onto the system, you can get the information, copy that into an email. You can be confident that this is correct information because of what we previously discussed. And it just makes it as easy as that, essentially. No need to run a specific report, no need to do a complicated query. Obviously, all of that is still available in the system if necessary. So we obviously have reporting and querying capabilities. If you just need a quick answer, this is the way to come. Okay, and we can ask it to give us different formats as well. So we can say, show me current work order statuses in a bar chart, for example. Okay, so it can give you that information in whatever format you like. Just to close the loop as well, what I'd like to do is show you. So if you remember, the first demo we saw was updating the flood risk information on the network using spatial data. So that data is now updated into the network data. One of the reasons that's really key, and I may have gone over this point too many times already, but because it's locked into the data now, and it's not just a random map layer floating over the top of your data, it means that we can report, we can query, and we can ask questions about it. So we could say something like, how many network sections have a high impact flood risk? Okay. Okay. All right. Let me try this in a different way then. So let's say give me a chart then. Okay. I'm not sure what happened there. For some reason, it prefers to give us a chart for this particular output. But there you go. So you can see these flood risks here were updated automatically using the process we saw earlier. They're now available in the system at any time to query, to report on, to produce these kinds of answers. Okay, so I'm going to stop there in the interest of time, because I know we need to wrap up and we probably have some time for Q&A. But hopefully that gives you an idea of the way we can use generative AI cautiously and carefully in systems like iROADS to start really improving the ease of use even beyond what's currently possible. All right, with that, I'm going to switch back to my presentation, and Subu is going to take over for us from here. Just give me 1 second to switch the screens. Sorry, this should be coming through any second now. And very helpfully, it's put me right back to the first slide. So just give me a second here to find the correct slide, which is this one. Okay, so sorry, just before we go to the conclusion, there's just one more factor that we need to talk about. So at the start, we said there were 4 factors: automation, data integration, ease of use. The final one, maybe the most obvious one, is the pricing. What you want from an asset management system: simple and transparent pricing. Obviously, the actual numbers are important, and we can talk about that. But just in terms of something to look for, simple and transparent pricing is really critical. Just a few things, like, for example, having uncapped numbers of user licenses. So for historic reasons, a lot of these types of systems will have a cap on the number of licenses, the number of users that can use the system. It's to do with old architecture and old pricing policies and things like that. Doesn't matter. For iROADS, what we have are uncapped licenses. So what that essentially means is any number of users can use the system once you've bought it. There is no limit on that. One of the reasons we've done that is to make this as simple and transparent as possible. Another reason is because we want customers to really get the value from the system. If they start with maybe a team of 5, maybe even that's ambitious in some cases, maybe a team of 2 or 3 people using the system, gradually they start to realize, okay, there's another use case here, there's another team who could use this. What we don't want is for there to be a price, a cost, which gets in the way of expanding that out to the other team. So in this way, the fact that there are uncapped licenses for iROADS means that it's completely up to you as the customer when and how you want to expand out the use of iROADS across your organization. And hopefully what I've demonstrated, what we've demonstrated today, is the fact that this does go beyond again, let's say traditional asset management system. The purpose of this type of system is to provide as much value as possible across the organization. So this is a really critical thing. Very briefly, so obviously we want to know things like data use pricing. That has to be very clear. So as you start to use more data in the system, how much is it going to cost you? You don't want any kind of surprises. You don't want to get to a point again where the cost becomes a blocker. So if you think, okay, if I upload this next video survey, I'm going to go over my data cap and it's going to cost me X more. Therefore, maybe I don't upload the video survey. You really have to make sure that the data use pricing policy is, well, 1, that it fits your needs, but 2, that it's very clear and transparent. Okay, I mentioned earlier, obviously the number, the absolute number matters in terms of subscription costs and configuration setup costs, that kind of thing. We're not going to talk numbers here today because I can't just throw out numbers. It's an it depends type of question. What I can tell you, because we're in the local authority market here, and that is a public market, it's an open market, the data is all available out there on pricing and costing. We know, we're very, very confident that we are very competitive on that side of things. And even further, if you look at the total cost of ownership, so you're thinking again in terms of cost effectiveness, what you actually get back for the cost or the investment that you put into the asset management system, we believe we are the most competitive on the market. Now, obviously, you don't need to take my word for that. You know, we can discuss these kinds of numbers directly if necessary. But I just want to explain that we've looked at the data, we've done the analysis, we're very, very confident that we're very, very competitive. And that's important in this marketplace, as we know we have to be cost effective. All right. So just very briefly, what we've got at automation, data integration, ease of use, simple and transparent pricing, 4 key things that you really need to bear in mind when procuring an asset management system. Okay. With that, I'm going to hand over to Subu and we can conclude. Over to you, Subu.
Thank you, John. I hope that session was useful. Please let us have more questions in the chat as much as possible. Now, what John has shown today is a glimpse of iROADS, not the whole product or the platform or the features. Just to summarize, the whole product platform is divided into 3 areas: operations and maintenance, asset management performance, and strategy and planning. Today, what some of the features John showed, so can you click, John, primarily sits in the asset management and performance space. So the Copilot and the video-based analysis and maintenance planning, bridge inspections, and all, that comes under this this category: asset management and performance management of assets. At some point in time in future, we will do a separate session on strategy and planning, where whole life cost analysis, climate resilient planning, KPI modeling, risk-based prioritization, etc. How it is done in iROADS, we will showcase, and at a later date on operations and maintenance, which is inspections, work orders, invoicing, contractor performance management, customer service management, and all. So those two we will plan to demonstrate at a later point of time. But today, what you saw is around asset management and performance. And what you're seeing on screen is, and in the middle part is where the key features are. Some of the key features, not all features, and the value proposition delivered for each of those category of functional areas. Thank you. If you have any questions, please ask or chat. We are on standby to take your questions.
As far as I can see, I think we've answered the questions in the chat. I can't see any new ones coming in unless I've missed them. Maybe just to expand on Phil's question then. So Phil asked, can other survey providers' data be analysed in the same way as scanner data? Yes, absolutely, Phil. And critically, obviously, it's the PAS 2161 data, which is going to become more and more important. So everything you saw in terms of processing the scanner data works exactly the same for PAS 2161 data. The only thing we don't know for sure yet, of course, is what reporting exactly the DFT is going to require. But as far as we know, it's actually going to probably be simpler than the current reporting and the current analysis. So I don't foresee any issues with that.
And just to add, anybody who wants a custom demonstration of iROADS using your own data, whoever has attended the webinar, please reach out. We will have a one-to-one session with you with your own data, just and give you access to the system just to see how it all works.
Yeah. We got a question from Colin. So can I get other survey providers to join the data marketplace if they are not there? Absolutely. So what we have, Colin, is we have a process, a vetting process. So we do carefully curate what's in the data marketplace, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure the quality is there, the format works, you know, the geolocation works in terms of matching up with the network, the pricing is reasonable, which obviously comes into it. So yes, if you have some data providers which you didn't see and you would like them to be on there, please just let us know. And we can start the process with them as well. I think hopefully, as you saw, we do have a lot of the most well-known, most widely known data providers already signed up. Question from Razor, hope I am pronouncing that correctly. Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that PMS is being replaced by National Highways, but PMS was the only source of AMS in the UK. Is this confirmed now? Not 100% sure what you mean by that, Razor, but essentially what we replaced was the National Highways pavement management system with iROADS. That system, or the previous system, was looking after only the strategic road network. So essentially the trunk roads, the motorways. It's not at all looking after the local roads. So no, it's not the only asset management system in the UK, if that was your question. Sam, question from Sam. Can it do highway, road and pavement defect inspections, scheduled or ad hoc, walked and driven? Yes, Sam. Yeah, absolutely. The answer to that is yes. So as you saw on the previous slide, I'll just go back here. We have a whole suite of operations and maintenance functionality. We just didn't demo that today. We were trying to focus in on asset management. But we have a mobile app. We have full inspection capabilities. Driven, walked, ad hoc, yeah, it's all there. Maybe we should do a separate webinar on that.
Sam, if you get in touch with us, we can show this how it works to you directly. So
we're 1 minute over time. I'm assuming we probably need to wrap up here.
Yeah. So one more question from Spencer. So can road authorities provide sample data for TRL to? Yes, we are happy to provide, happy to receive the sample data. Please reach out. We will load your data, work with you, and demonstrate it back to you how it works, and even give you access to the system and all. As we are looking for innovative, progressive local authorities to work with us as we enter this market. So yes is the answer. We can take in sample data or even full data to show you how this all works, how this all will work. So the email is in the last slide. If you have any more questions or anything else in your mind, you want to see iROADS in your local authority or in your country, I can see there are overseas visitors also in this webinar. Please reach out in this email. We will be quick and can get your data and do custom demonstrations and pilots for you as we go. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I hope this was useful. Please provide your feedback later. And if you have any questions, please just drop an email at this address. Thank you.
Thanks very much, all.